in order for us to 10x our company or business or whatever, we first have to 10x ourselves. Meaning the way you show up, the way you see yourself, the way that you be has to be on a different level, because someone who makes 10x of what you're currently making likely thinks differently, acts differently, believes differently than the way you are currently thinking, believing, and acting.
Yeah.
But the core of it is you have to grow first.
Yeah.
Then the company can grow.
Welcome to the Evolve Leadership Show. Today on the show, we are going to be looking at the single barrier that is holding leaders back from 10x growth. My name is Timm McLagan. I'm the senior coach here at Evolve Leadership, and I am joined with the founder of Evolve, Angus Nelson. Angus, how's it going today?
It's going great. I'm excited about this conversation we're about to have today, because it's something that I believe is core and critical to how people actually just show up.
Yeah. Angus, you have been a coach to hundreds of entrepreneurs, and there is one secret sauce, one thing that if they implement, it changes everything. And usually entrepreneurs, we think of a strategy, the system. That's what's going to make the biggest difference. But when we talk about what is the single barrier that is holding people back from the potential wealth and growth to 10x themselves, become the 10.0 version of yourselves, if you will, what is that one thing?
Well, actually, you just alluded to it. You know, in order for us to 10x our company or business or whatever, we first have to 10x ourselves. Meaning the way you show up, the way you see yourself, the way that you be has to be on a different level, because you have to understand, like, someone who makes 10x of what you're currently making likely thinks differently, acts differently, believes differently than the way you are currently thinking, believing, and acting.
Yeah.
And so what we see is an internal expansion creates an external expansion. And so for the business to grow, oftentimes the leader has to grow. As an entrepreneur, we have to see ourselves in a different light, a different level.
Yeah.
And there's a number of things that get in the way of that. And we can dive into that into a second. But the core of it is you have to grow first.
Yeah.
Then the company can grow.
Now, Angus, you're sitting across the table from a client, and you drop that bomb on them. You have to grow in order. What is the biggest points of resistance? What is the biggest thing that you get pushback from as soon as you drop that on someone?
Oh, what do you mean? This is a mindset. You know, that's what they all say. It's like
it's some woo-woo thing.
Yeah, like it's some kind of like out of body, out of, like metaphysical, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, tell me this, like when you show up for your spouse, for your family, for whatever, if you show up in a good mood, how's the night go? If you show up in a bad mood, how does the night go? Like just this little incremental thing is like, oh, well, if I have this crap energy, like we have a crap experience. Yeah. In the same way, if you have a crap way of thinking about your business, i.e. scarcity, thinking limiting beliefs or negative beliefs. And let me define those real quick. Like limiting beliefs are the things we define for ourselves, stories we tell ourselves in light of our past.
So break that down a little bit. What happens? Something in somebody's life happens in the past. What is that? A failed business? Is that a bad experience? And then what happens there?
We build a story around it, right? We love to place meaning on things. As human beings, we are meaning monsters, as a friend of mine once said. And there's this element of a storyline that we'll create to our lives, a narrative, and that will perpetuate through our lives. So if you grew up in poverty, oftentimes you can have scarcity. If you grew up with your parents only made this level of income, for me to make another level of income, like, oh, maybe I don't deserve, maybe I'm not worthy of that. If you have beliefs around areas of your life where you just effed up, you completely jacked up your life. And now all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm a jack up. I mean, I had one of my clients who said, look, I didn't graduate from high school. I had a child out of wedlock. Like, who am I to grow a multi-million-dollar business? And now he's growing a multi-million-dollar business because I said, who are you to think that those things didn't prepare you?
Yeah.
Like we reframe a lot of the things we've gone through to create new stories, new narratives on how we are qualified. valuable, worthy of these things we're trying to aspire.
And what's crazy is like the client you're saying, he was successful in his own right. Like at the time you were coaching him, he was successful entrepreneur, but this little unlock, this little letting go of a story of something that happened in the past, something that he kind of attached meaning and sort of defined him, right?
Yeah.
That one unlock suddenly busted him up to a whole other level, right?
Yeah. And when you wake up in the morning, you look into the mirror, like the narratives you start telling yourself are defining the day. And they're going to play into your sales calls. They're going to play into how you're marketing. They're going to play into how you show up in fulfillment for your customers. And so there's this big equation that starts off with beliefs. Beliefs create behaviors. Behaviors create outcomes.
Wait, say that again. That's good. That's good. Beliefs create...
Beliefs create behaviors. Behaviors create results, right? The outcomes.
Break that down. So what is an example of a belief that creates a behavior in a negative way and then in a positive?
So if I'm thinking negatively about myself, and we still have to define limiting and negative beliefs and whatever, but in a limiting belief standpoint, if I don't believe I'm worthy of some of the things I'm trying to do, I walk into a room and I experience what some people call imposter syndrome. Like, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't belong in this place. And suddenly you'll say or do something that will like be off. Like, even as the words are coming from your mouth, like, what am I saying? I'm being an idiot right now. Right. Or someone comes talking and you get all fidgety and you're like, I don't know. I was talking to one of my clients and he was, brought on a stage for a panel, and he was on a panel with like his heroes, people that he looked up to. And then he was invited to be a part of this. Yeah. And he said the first part of the panel, when they called him, it's like, hey, you're like introducing. He's like, I couldn't even introduce myself. He said, I was fumbling all of a sudden. I was like, that's so awkward. But what do I even do?
Sure.
And he said, and then as the panel went on, he got better and better. But he said, why is it that I had that issue? And I seem to have that issue commonly, often. Yeah. And I was like, well, let's go back in your story. And his story exists with all this bullshit from his past, that he came from this other time of life where he didn't have a lot and he had to work and strive and he didn't deserve to be at this place because nobody else in his family had gotten to that place, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
These are the things that get in our way in our beliefs that create these behaviors. In the same way, when your belief changes and you get to this new level of belief of like, holy shit, I do belong. I know what I'm talking about. I am making a difference. And then you walk into that same room with this different level of energy and audacity and confidence. Yeah. And now when you go to shake someone's hand, you're like, hey, how you doing? Hey, so tell me about yourself. Hey, I'm an executive coach. And and they're like, wow, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And that energy becomes transferable. That person borrows your confidence and your swagger and whatever. And they're like, hey, do you know so-and-so? No, I don't know. So they would be perfect for you. And suddenly they make an introduction to something that creates business or a client or whatever. And you get a different level of outcome. Yeah. Right? The belief creates a different behavior. That behavior opens up these opportunities, which are the outcomes.
Yeah. And we've all experienced people in a room or people on a call that either have that desperation, that sales breath.
Yeah, we talk about that.
Or they just have that insecurity. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard. You can tell you're almost like, you're almost cringing because you can see them just combusting in front of you. You're like, dude, like you have so much to offer, especially if it's a friend that you know. You see all of a sudden they change when they're in a different room and they turn into this other person. But the person in that room who acts in confidence, as you say, has nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing to prove. That's the most powerful person in a room.
For sure.
When someone that comes with that kind of energy, man, you want to do business with them. You want to get to know them. You want to experience you want to see if there's any opportunities to work together because you want to be around that energy, that confidence is contagious. And I think a lot of times when we're talking about mindset, we don't necessarily connect it to when you can be the most confident, powerful, humble version of yourself. That's true power. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter the circumstances that you're hitting. It doesn't matter where your bank account says. Yeah. When you show up in that power, things can get changed immediately.
And let's kind of put some skin on that.
Yeah.
Right. So the bones are, I'm changing my belief about myself. And so I step into this level of I belong and I'm worthy and I have what it takes, like these kinds of things. I am enough, I've heard other people say. And then you go into this place of like, when I'm in this energy, I get new ideas, new creativity, new possibility, and I can give myself permission to step into these bigger realms. I operate on a bigger context. I can step onto a bigger stage. And that's when as I said before, is when that inner self grows, then the business can grow, because suddenly that audacity leads you into finishing that book. That audacity gets you on that stage. That audacity gets you in front of that client. Like all these different things start to grow as you see yourself bigger. And then secondarily, to 10x changes the way you think. Because most of us, we think in 2x thinking. Like if I just work harder, if I just do more of what I'm already doing, then I'm going to grow my business. Only that leads to exhaustion
and burnout. Yeah.
All the junk that, gets perpetuated in this entrepreneur world. When you start that 10x thinking, you go into this place of expansion, and your level of humility, your level of comfort in your ego allows you to think, this isn't just me, it's beyond me. How can I leverage some of my relationships and make an ask? Hey, can you make an introduction for this? Hey, who do you know that can help me with that? Secondarily is like, what other technologies can help me? Where can AI play in the process? Whereas before I'd be like, oh no, this is AI, this is a trend, it's just a fad. And it's like, no. What are the actual opportunities where I could even decrease the size of my team because I can replace with some of the efficiencies of artificial intelligence? You wouldn't do that if you were still in 2x thinking. You would just be worker. Let's go, work harder, do more. Now I'm 10x thinking like, how do we expand in this? Third, now what are my products or services that now we can do differently to profit better, serve clients fuller, and create more referrals? Like you start thinking in a different context once you get yourself out of the way. Yeah. And this is why that belief system is so powerful. So I want to go back to one more thing. So that's the limiting beliefs. Here's the thing. Most people are not afraid of failure. We call it that. I'm afraid to fail. What if I screw it up? What if people make fun of me? Like those are some of the limiting beliefs based on our stories, right? The other side is the negative beliefs, and negative beliefs are defined by the future. Yeah. Limiting beliefs of the past, negative beliefs are the future. If I become wealthy, will I become a dick? If I become wealthy, will I become arrogant? If I become wealthy, will I lose family members, friends, people I once held dear? We'll tell ourselves stories of what success means to us based on negative beliefs, that money will make you a jerk. Money will make you arrogant. Money will make you whatever it is, fill in the blank. If you have those kinds of beliefs, you will automatically, subconsciously sabotage opportunities for growth and advancement.
Wow.
And you're actually working against yourself when you have these beliefs of what you think success will cost you. But you have to replace that with a new belief of what opportunities would become possible. If I had these resources, what kind of impact could I make? What kind of transformation can I bring to the world? What opportunities could I bring to my family and their future? What opportunities of me to give to nonprofits or things that I believe in? You have to replace those negative beliefs with positive ones, because those will be the attractors that bring you into a stronger and firmer future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not sabotaging.
Let me just pause for a second to say this. There is one trait that you will find in every successful leader, no matter their industry, no matter their role. And that trait is action. And we want to inspire ambitious leaders like you to bet on yourself and take action on those audacious goals that you see in your heart. That's why we created our 90-Day Accelerator. It's a results-driven, battle-tested framework designed specifically for high-performing leaders like you to get unstuck and propel you towards your goals. And in just 90 days, you won't even recognize the person you used to be. To be a part of this elite community, go to evolveleadership.org. Now, back to the show. Angus, you interviewed Jen Sincero for her book, You're a Badass at Making Money, in an earlier episode, and I highly recommend it. It's a great episode. In her book, she talks specifically about this idea of if we didn't come from wealth, a lot of times we create these defense mechanisms to justify why we're at where we're at, and maybe we picked them up from our parents, maybe we picked them up for those around us, but wealthy people are blank, arrogant, they're entitled, they're assholes, whatever it is. We put that on them, and it's really a defense mechanism because we aren't wealthy. And then this idea of, what if you had whatever is an inordinate amount of money? What if you had 10 million come in this year, 100 million come in, whatever that is? Would you be an asshole with that? Would you be arrogant about that? Or could you actually use that to impact the world in a powerful way? And so money is amoral, right? Money doesn't make you evil. It just amplifies what's already in you. And so this is why doing the work is so important, because if our mindset is jacked up, as soon as we get money, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get royally jacked up, right?
Yeah. And I would add to that, those stories that we tell ourselves about money, and money is just one example. There's other areas in relationships, in marriage, in how a business is structured, where you have other stories. But I think money is such an important one because it kind of amplifies the bigger picture. Scarcity is a deep thing with all of us. If you have scarcity in your life, then you will think in a way that if I get more, someone else has to get less. Right? Instead, what if you understood that as you get more, opportunities for others become more as well? We stop to think, like, if my company grows, then that means some other company has to get small. I've stolen market share. I've taken away their clients. That's a scarcity mindset versus as I grow, competition in our marketplace, like we just get better and better. You get better, I get better, we get better. Secondarily, I hire more employees, their lives get better, their possibilities, their things that they learn, the way they affect their family, the way they show up with joy, the way their marriage increases. If I see my business as being this positive impact into the world, and I see my world from a place of abundance, not scarcity. So secondarily, I see the economy, I see politics, I see, all these different things in the world. I'm like, oh God, I shrink back. Or those things are just going to happen. And they're an invitation for me to step into a new reality. How do I want to do this differently? How do I want to show up differently? How do I want to pivot my company and add different things or take away different things? When we think abundantly, we create possibility. And again, you don't get there until you start here. We have to be in abundance internally. We have to be abundance in our thinking. We have to be abundance in how we lead our teams. That belief creates completely different behaviors. And again, those behaviors create different results.
And Angus, if there's one thing our listeners can take away, that move, what we have seen in client after client after client and entrepreneur after entrepreneur, is if you can move any degree from scarcity to abundance, it'll change your world. The one client that we had was massive scarcity. He had issues with his team. He had problems when COVID hit. It just absolutely changed every part of his business. And you taught him this phrase that he has repeated over and over, even on this show. Shout out to Mike Stelzner. He said that when an opportunity, when a dip in the economy happened, he heard this phrase, what does this make possible? Bro, that's abundance thinking. Scarcity would be double down. How do I grip? How do I try to control? But he had this, okay, the economy's taking a hit. My business is taking a hit. But he said, I didn't freak out. He said, it just asks the question, what does this make possible? And I want you to describe what that quick conversation was with him, because he's on a track and a trajectory it's really exciting.
Yeah.
But talk about that shift in him taking on that abundance mentality.
Yeah. So ironically, that 10X is easier than 2X book that we've talked about before helped him like open his eyes, right? We had already been working towards growth mindset. We'd already been working towards this abundant thinking. But when he read that book, and shout out to that book, we're full of shout outs today, that like pivoted a belief. And that's the key.
Yeah.
A belief in him was, what does this make possible? So he just started to imagine. So I challenged him. I said, go away this weekend, he would go on hikes and walks and stuff like that. And I said, just ponder this. And over the next couple of weeks, we're just going to, let this simmer. And before that first week was over, he's like, I was walking up and I got this idea and I think this is it. And it was enough and this is what I'm saying, this different belief, suddenly it's like you free up your mind when you take the pressure off, when you take that limiting factor off. Yeah. And when you change this belief, the stress, the anxieties, and all the chemicals in your system, the cortisol and dopamine and all those things that are always in fight, flight, and domination of your body and your mind, suddenly you get to this place where that isn't the case. And you get up new ideas, you come up with new possibilities, and you give yourself other permissions. Yeah. And for Mike, it was a matter of him giving himself permission, like, my company has always looked like this.
Yeah.
But what if it looked differently? What could that look like? That little shift made all the difference in the world, where he was able to say, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. And he immediately started taking actions with the team. Okay, we're going to move this. We're going to shape this. We're going to start this. We're going to stop that.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was like areas of his business that he's like, this isn't working anymore. This has got to go. This part of the business doesn't even serve our future. This worked in the past, but doesn't work anymore. This has got to go. And he started shaving off the different pieces and reprioritizing where resources were going to say, this is where the company is going. And this is another important piece of belief systems is when you make decisions, you either make decisions from what you're trying to get away from or what you're trying to move towards. A limiting belief, scarcity is trying to avoid. Abundance is moving towards. Yeah. It's like Wayne Gretzky. Shout out to Wayne Gretzky. Go where the puck is going, right? Go where the puck is going.
Yeah.
And so he's spotted that, has picked a line, in a trajectory and said, this is our new North Star. And everything revolves around that.
Yeah.
That's the change. That's the switch is suddenly you're at this place where, wow, I can see a bigger picture. All the priorities change.
Yeah.
And now you start behaving in the way that someone who's running, let's give you a number, a $5 million company, this is how a $5 million person shows up. And you start becoming that. You start to own that. You start to shape your life around that, your thinking around that, the behavior around that. And suddenly, as you start to act and behave in this context, you start to get that kind of results.
Yeah.
Because as we started this conversation, who you are today does not reflect who you see yourself to be. Mm-hmm. And if we can change some of those belief systems of who you see yourself to be, you will start to make transitions in your business, in your life, in your attitude, and everywhere else in between.
Yeah, it's so cool. And specifically, like in Mike's example, right? He went from a scarcity mindset to abundance. When a dip in the economy hit, he was able to say, what does this make possible? Now he's doubling down on AI and highly recommend, I'll put a link in the show notes, AI Explored. His new podcast is brilliant, getting the best AI minds on for entrepreneurs. But he's totally pivoted. Yep. Normally, when we as entrepreneurs hit a snag or hit a dip, we freak out. Yeah. We double down. We work harder. We try to drum up. And I mean, his career started by doubling down on a wave of social, right? Yeah. That came through and he rode that wave. And now he's realizing dude, AI is coming, and he was able to pivot. And that's what I love about abundance. Gets us out of trying to control the circumstances. It is this confident belief. Now, whether you're a person of faith or not, it's this confident belief that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
That I've got everything I need for an abundant, wealthy life that's inside of me. And sometimes this negative thing that's happening is simply an indicator that there's another opportunity coming my way, and I need to have my head up looking for it. And that shifts, because if somebody can move from scarcity, where we're thinking there's not enough, I gotta scrounge, I gotta, we start pressing, and sometimes we make really bad decisions.
Yeah. And I want to just speak to you who's listening, and you're in your car, you're on your lawnmower, like you're in your office, like wherever you're at. If you're in a place where you are in that scarcity place, where your chest is tightening, where you're feeling anxiety, where you're having sleepless nights, it is an invitation to you to explore that deeper. Where is that coming from? Why is that being a driver in your life? What are the beliefs that are backing that? Because you should write those things down and then ask yourself, is this really true? Is this who I am? And can I change this? And secondarily, is there someone else who's gone where I want to go, who came from where I'm from? Because that'll give you permission to say, like, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
I can do this too. And you slowly start making these transitions to that new reality. And then you ask yourself, what must be true in order for me to believe this new way I want to believe? And you start shaping this vision, and you start shifting from scarcity to abundance. And there's a number of different techniques that you can do to take this journey. And that's what we do with our clients, is help them take this journey and shrink it from like a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year experience into a 2-month, 3-month, 4-month experience. Because once that internal part shifts, once that changes, everything changes. The way you show up for your business, the way you profit, the way you show up for your kids or your partner, the way you show up for you changes when you believe differently.
Yeah. Angus, it's like this idea of what could be possible if you had that shift. Like if you went from scarcity, if you're pressing in your business, if you feel like, even if on success, you have that nagging thing in the back that, okay, the issue is going to hit the fan soon, right?
When's the shoe going to drop?
When's the shoe going to drop? And that is an indicator that you are living less than your optimal state. It's in scarcity. But if we can bust out of scarcity, man, anything's possible. Yeah. And in entrepreneur after entrepreneur in our community, but then also some of the top entrepreneurs that you see all around the world, they are in this abundance mentality. Yeah. They are seeing new opportunities. They're stepping into who they are. And so to leave the entrepreneur who's listening to this show, what is the last thing you want to leave them with today?
What you're experiencing today does not define what you're capable of. This is just the stepping stone. This is the entry point. Everything you've experienced up to this point, we like to call the tuition. It's what you paid to gain the tuition, the wisdom, the tuition. It is the tuition. To gain the wisdom, the insights, the learnings to shape you and prepare you. And they now become your unfair advantage. Everything you've experienced, everything you've gone through has been for a purpose, for a reason. And so now today you get to choose, what's the next step? How do I want to take everything I've learned, everything I experienced, and let me just give you a wink, wink, nod, nod. Much of it may have sucked. Much of it may not have been great. So ask yourself, do I want to go through that again?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to be on this merry-go-round. I don't want to be on this hamster wheel. I don't want Then today's your day to choose to change. Today's your day to choose something different.
Come on.
To change a belief. To change, like, I'm going to choose today that other things are possible. I'm going to give myself permission to step into a new reality. And then start seeking what those realities can be for you. Transform the way you're thinking. Like, don't be afraid to be like making a list on a piece of paper where on one side, all your bullshit, all of the old beliefs, all the old stories. And then on the other side of that equation, write down What's a new belief? What's a new story I want to choose today? And start reminding yourself over and over and over again about who you are and what's possible for you. And there's so much more, but today is the day you get to choose. If you're hearing our voice, if you're watching this video, what will you choose? What will you choose is possible for you? And my friend, my hope is that we've inspired you today, that you can ask yourself, what does this make possible? As we wrap up another episode of Evolve Leadership, thank you so much for taking time to invest in you. If there's to be any sustainable growth in your company or even in your relationships, you must grow first. And it's what I love to do for leaders, to help them grow, to challenge their thinking, sharpen self-awareness, to instill an unshakable confidence, and ultimately upgrade their sense of self. And we do this through our proprietary method called Agile EQ Plus, where we're leveraging agile leadership and emotional intelligence. We provide our signature training for individuals, and for businesses, we've designed a unique curriculum for company-wide learning and development. If you'd like to learn more about our training or to schedule a call, you can simply go to evolveleadership.org. And until next time, stay driven, keep climbing, and never stop evolving.